All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the newest edition of the Payton Doyle Show. I'm Payton Doyle, host of the Payton Doyle Show. Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. And today, I brought on Jared Barnes, host of the Jared Barnes Show, good friend of the show, first guest in year 2 of the Payton Doyle Show. We've got a good lineup today for you guys. We got a really good lineup today, a lot of NFL talk. But starting off with the big news of the week. Carson Wentz is an Indianapolis Colt. The Eagles have traded Carson Wentz to the Indianapolis Colts for a 2021 third-round pick and a conditional 2022 second-round pick that could possibly become a first-round pick. This almost seemed inevitable ever since Wentz was benched, and there was a lot of trade rumors surrounding him that he was going to go to the Colts. I know Jared, big Colts guy, he's been on this for the past few months saying that Carson Wentz should be an Indianapolis Colt reunited with Frank Reich. Jared, who do you think won this trade, the Colts or the Eagles?
Well, to be honest, I think that it was a mutual thing where they both kind of got the better end for themselves. Carson clearly didn't want to be in Philly no more. And they knew that you could keep him captive there in Philadelphia, but they knew it wasn't going to work out. And it's better to not get that pay on your cap, because on March 3rd, the Eagles were going to have to pay him $10 million just for being on their roster. And for a guy that would have been the backup quarterback, just that extra $10 million bonus for the Eagles would have been detrimental to their cap, especially in a situation like the NFL this offseason where we don't know what the cap's going to be. So that was good for them to get rid of him. I think the Colts won the trade straight up, though, because what they gave up to get a guy that could potentially be a very good NFL quarterback still is just a great deal for them in my eyes. I really like what the Colts are building, and I think that is the one piece that they were missing was quarterback. I think if Carson turns out to be what Carson used to be, it's a great trade for the Colts. Either way, I think it was a good trade for the Colts.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think that the Indianapolis Colts easily won this trade. Carson Wentz is still young. He's still not even in what would be his prime. And we also seem to forget he had a really good stretch where he was the only quarterback to throw for over 4,000 yards and not have a single receiver catch for over 500 yards in 2019. Last year I know was rough, but also from 2017 to 2019, he threw for 81 touchdowns and 21 interceptions. That's an incredible ratio right there, touchdown interception ratio. And I know 2020 was bad, but Carson Wentz is a talented young quarterback who's actually shown flashes of greatness. In 2017, he was going to win MVP before he got hurt against the Rams, tore his ACL. But now he gets to be with Frank Reich, the guy who made Carson Wentz. But also, looking at the Eagles, Jalen Hurts has not shown me anything that makes me believe that he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. I don't think that Jalen Hurts is a starting quarterback quality in the NFL. The Eagles are one of the worst teams in the NFL. They hired a coach who hasn't done anything. He's never called plays. You wanted a return for Wentz like the Lions got for Matthew Stafford, and you didn't even get close to that. You maybe will get a first-round pick for Carson Wentz, maybe, who was the best quarterback on your team. You gave him up. And you're also taking the biggest cap hit in NFL history because Carson Wentz is not on your roster anymore. So you traded up to draft the quarterback at second overall. You gave him a massive contract, and he has one bad season, then you trade him away for a can of beans. And, makes sense for Philly. I think Philly's in a lot of trouble. They have a lot of cap trouble. They're getting rid of Alshon Jeffrey and Malik Jackson, I believe, and Deshaun Jackson.
Too.
So they are in a full rebuild mode. I don't know where they're going to go. Do you think they're going to keep Jalen Hurts, or do you think they're going to draft the quarterback at the, I believe they have number 6 overall pick?
Well, personally, I think they're going to take a quarterback. I don't think it matters who's there at 6, whether that be Trey Lance, Justin Fields, or Zach Wilson. Although I don't think Zach will for sure. I don't think Zach's going to fall further than 4. I think Justin could easily fall further than 4. I think Trey Lance could slide. If he gets past the Eagles, I think Trey Lance could slide well into the mid-first round. I think they're for sure going to take a quarterback. Howie Roseman has said that they are a quarterback factory after they drafted Jalen. So I think they're definitely going to take a quarterback. But you got to remember, You mentioned about how the Eagles wanted to get in return, like a return that the Lions got for Stafford.
Mm-hmm.
You got to remember that the Eagles situation, they had Goff instead of Stafford, pretty much. With that bad contract, the way that Wentz played in the past year was awful.
Yeah.
Goff was not great. Stafford was just, he was good. No one was going to take that contract on for a first round draft pick, let alone two. The Eagles were trying to get people to somehow convince them to give them more than what Wentz was worth. I think the Colts did a good job of giving them exactly what Wentz was worth right now. So I don't know, but I do for sure think the Eagles are going to take a quarterback. I think it's going to be Justin Fields or Trey Lance, though.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think they absolutely should look at taking a quarterback with that number 6 overall pick. Like I said, I don't think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. I think he was flashy. I think he had a solid game against Arizona. And I understand he was in a bad situation, but, you're the guy that gives the team the spark, and you still didn't really play that well. I don't think Jalen Hurts has what it takes. He's a special talent.
Let's be honest, though. That team has a lot more problems than just quarterback.
100%.
Now I would honestly say now they have an inept coach that doesn't know what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And that's too early to say, honestly. But this is a guy that's never called plays at the professional level. And now he's your head coach. I don't know how that's going to work out at all.
Listen, neither do I, man. That was definitely an interesting hire, to say the least. It just seemed like no one wanted to be the coach of the Eagles because of what they had going on there. And I think it's mainly because you have management telling coaches what to do. And I think that's the reason why Doug Peterson was fired, because he was like, dude, let me do my thing. You know what I mean? And they were like, no, we are in control of what we want. We are the management. It was almost like it was like Jerry Krause versus Phil Jackson, obviously not to that extent, but it was management saying, no, we control this. You are just the coach. You have no say in personnel. And I believe that's why the job was extremely undesirable to top candidates such as Robert Saleh or Urban Meyer or any of these big candidate guys, even Eric Bieniemy for that matter. So the Eagles are in a lot of trouble. But now let's get back to the Colts, though. You look at the AFC South. You have Jacksonville, who's about to get Trevor Lawrence, just got Urban Meyer as their head coach. Tons of cap space to be able to improve that roster. Then you have the Texans, who are not looking that good.
Dumpster fire.
Yeah, they are a dumpster fire right now, for sure, to say the least. And then you have the Titans, who are year in, year out a solid team. They have an identity. They run the ball. They're really good in the play action with Ryan Tannehill. Their defense needs a little bit of work. But now you look at the Colts, really good offensive line, really good young running back, really solid defense with Darius Leonard, really good head coach, I believe, in Frank Reich, and a really big question mark at quarterback. Do you think that the Colts are going to win the AFC South?
Yes. I thought that when the season ended. I thought they were going to win it coming into the year. They didn't. Tennessee was they didn't. Tennessee was very good. Tennessee is not winning it. They're $3 million over the cap as of right now, and they need help on defense significantly. Like, they have no pass rush, and they're not going to find it being $3 million over the cap. They're going to have to draft somebody, and their history of drafting pass rushers over the last couple of years has not been fantastic. So I think it's the Colts division if they want it. Now, that all depends on how Carson Wentz plays. If we see Carson Wentz from last year in Philly, in Indy, Titans will win it for sure. But I like the Colts' chances. I like the Colts' chances to get out of the AFC this year.
Really?
I'm that high on the Colts.
So you think Carson Wentz has the potential to lead the Indianapolis Colts to a Super Bowl appearance this year?
No. I think Frank Reich has the potential to lead the Colts to a Super Bowl appearance because they're going to have to ride the coattails of Jonathan Taylor to get there. Mm-hmm. I think they can run it down anybody's throat if they wanted to. And don't be shocked if Jonathan Taylor comes out and leads the NFL in rushing yards next year.
Wow.
I'm going bold today. I'm going bold today.
Jared is on fire right now, man.
I am a huge fan of the Colts, and there's just something about that Colts team like that I just love more than any other team in the NFL. I
Mhm.
like I like the defensive side of the ball. I think they're young on both sides. I think they have great leadership on both sides because I think Darius Leonard is one of the best linebackers in the NFL, and I think he's one of the best leaders in the NFL. I liked when he came out and said the other day that if you want to come here, you better be willing to put in the work every single day. And I was like, let's go. Like that stuff makes me excited. I'm a big fan of the Colts. I'm not a
Mhm.
Colts fan. Like I'm a Steelers fan through and through. But we're at a tough spot. We are in a tough spot. But I tell you what, that Colts team gets me excited.
I know you were a big Colts guy last year. You actually you thought I was crazy. I was really down on them all year. I just felt as if Phillip Rivers didn't have it. But I was wrong. They did make the playoffs. They are a lot better a team than I thought they were. Running the ball is really important. I think it's really important because it's going to take pressure off of Carson Wentz. I think
Bingo.
the biggest problem with Carson Wentz wasn't necessarily that he wasn't talented or that he wasn't good enough. It was that he got in this mental state where I feel as if he felt like he had to be Superman. And you see quarterbacks struggle like that all the time where they feel like they had to be Superman. I believe Baker Mayfield last season in his sophomore season, part of the reason that he struggled was that he felt like he had to make plays, like he had to put the team on his back and
Yep.
carry the team. When in reality, you just gotta sit back, let the O line block, let your receivers get open, make good reads, and run the ball and just manage the game, be a game manager. And I think Carson Wentz is talented enough to be a game manager and then also make those big plays that really can put a team over the top. I do believe that the Indianapolis Colts will win the AFC South next year. I don't believe that they are going to make it out of the conference and represent the AFC in the Super Bowl like you do, but I do believe they will win the AFC South if Carson Wentz can get out of his own head. If he can get out of his own head and just play relaxed football again. There was rumors that him and Doug Peterson weren't even talking to each other midway through the season this year. So obviously it was a bad and spoiled relationship in Philadelphia. If he can get back to that calm state of mind where he's just releasing the ball, playing smooth, fluid, efficient football, then the Colts are going to be a really, really dangerous and great team. But if he doesn't do that, it's going to be a disaster, sadly.
Yep.
Um,
And I think one more thing about the Colts.
yeah.
They're gonna have to make a decision at wide receiver. Because right now at their depth is not fantastic, but I think they have a very underrated wide receiver in Zach Pascal.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Pascal is, I think, one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL because he gets no respect from anybody. He gets no mention anywhere, but he's super talented. Michael Pittman's was a rookie last year, and he showed flashes toward the end of the year, which you want to see. T.Y. is set to be a free agent. So they're either going to have to bring T.Y. back or let him walk. I don't know what T.Y. is worth to them, but T.Y. is still I would say, is still a top 15 wide receiver in this league when fully healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're going to have to bring in somebody else, maybe like Marvin Jones Jr., or maybe take a flyer on John Ross. I think he's a free agent this year, just to try to bring somebody in to try to take the top off.
Yeah, just kind of get some speed in there.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying with that, but looking at Ty's number this year, he's not looking very good. He's looking like he's aging a lot. He's 31 years old.
He was injured for a lot of the year.
He was.
But if you go back and watch the film, the defense still respects him. They kind of cheat the safety over to his side almost every single time, which is crazy, even at his age.
Well, yeah, because he was the number one wide receiver on that team still, no doubt about it. He really was. But it's just he has, very lackluster performances lately. I think he's aging. I think they could possibly look for wide receivers in the draft. But like you said, I think Zach Pascal, if he gets enough playing time and enough targets, I do think he is somebody that could potentially have a breakout season next year for fantasy players out there, fantasy football players out there. We'll get into that later. We're not even close to fantasy football season. But I do agree with you. Zach Pascal is extremely underrated. Michael Pittman showed really good signs his rookie season. T.Y. Hilton's aging. If they could bring him back, though, he'd be a good veteran to have in there. You could even put him in the slot sometimes if you want. You could have him out wide. I think they definitely do have good weapons there in Indianapolis. I think they will win the AFC South. Now, moving on, though, to another AFC South team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mainly Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence had his pro day last Friday, and he looked tremendous, to say the least. He just had surgery on his non-throwing shoulder, and that went extremely well. He is poised to be easily the number 1 overall pick. Now, on my last episode, I threw the idea out there that I believe he is a better prospect than Andrew Luck coming out of college. What do you think about that? And how great do you think Trevor Lawrence will be in the pros?
I think that Trevor Lawrence would be the number 1 pick in any draft ever. I think he is one of the best quarterback prospects coming into the NFL that we've seen in a very long time. Like, I don't think there is a quarterback that I can compare. I think his ceiling is higher than most. I think he's just insanely talented. I would say, yes, he's better than Andrew Luck. And I think the thing that's going to benefit him the most is he is a great leader. Not that Andrew Luck was not, but when Andrew Luck arrived in Indianapolis, they had such a terrible offensive line, and he just sat back there and let himself get killed and never spoke up to the organization and said, get me help. I think Trevor will not do that. I think Trevor will say, hey, I need this, or else it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to benefit him greatly. That's why Andrew Luck's no longer in the league, because he didn't speak up, and it led to his ultimate demise. I don't think we'll ever see Andrew Luck back in the NFL because of that. And I think Trevor Lawrence, it will work out for him also because he has a new head coach in Urban Meyer coming in, who's a young head coach. He's going to want to listen to Trevor. They have a young team. I think it's the perfect situation for Trevor to ever land himself in the NFL in Jacksonville.
Yeah. Looking at Jacksonville, they do have tons of cap space to be able to go get an O-line, go get him help on the defensive side of the ball. You look at their running backs, James Robinson, 1,000-yard rusher his rookie season. I think he looked pretty solid given the circumstances there in Jacksonville, especially when you're playing from behind most of the game, so you don't really run the ball that much. And then you have DJ Chark, who I think is a really good wide receiver. Laviska Shenault was injured a lot last year, but I think that when he was on the field, he played well. I think they definitely have good potential in Jacksonville. The way I look at it is I think Trevor Lawrence is the best prospect since Peyton Manning. I think he reads plays at the line of scrimmage. He's really good at the line of scrimmage. He makes really, really good reads from the pocket, and he's really accurate, and he has a really strong arm. Trevor, and he's 6'6", 220. Trevor is something... He's going to be something special, and the AFC South should be really, really upset that they're going to have to play him twice a year. He has all things that great quarterbacks need, but now I was watching Colin Cowherd's new podcast, and on there, he was saying that he thinks that Justin Herbert might be a more physically gifted quarterback than Trevor Lawrence, and his guest, Greg Cosell, actually agreed with him on that. What do you think about that? Would you rather have Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert completely healthy for the next 10 years?
I'm going to take Justin Herbert because I know what I have with him in the NFL. Because I'll be honest, it's partly because I was so high on Herbert last year coming out. I compared him to Josh Allen. I said that he has, but I said he is a much more accurate version of Josh Allen. And I said that he could do things with his legs that people were not expecting. I said he could do things with his arm that people were not expecting. That was put on full display last year. He has the arm talent to possibly be one of the all-time greats. He is just that good. And I already saw what I have with him in the NFL. So over the next 10 years, I would take Justin Herbert, but that could easily be changed here within the next 7 or 8 months. Mm-hmm. If Trevor Lawrence comes out and does what I'm expecting him to do, it would be insane for me to look back and be like, I can't believe I took Herbert. But I think either way, if you take either one, you're in a good spot. You would love to have a quarterback like one of those two on your team.
Yeah. I'm going to disagree. Honestly, I see what both Colin and Greg Cosell and you are saying. Herbert is bigger. He's stronger. I think he might be a little better at improvising than Trevor. But I think Trevor is so great because he's like a well-oiled machine mentally. And rarely do I see him get flustered, even when his team is, in a really bad game, in a really big deficit, like against Ohio State this year, LSU last year. He didn't really seem flustered. The moment didn't seem too big for him. He flows through his progressions perfectly. I think he's more accurate than Herbert. He really is good at reading the defense at the line of scrimmage, much like Peyton Manning was, like I said earlier. I think while they do have a point, and while you do have a point as well, that we already do know what Herbert is like in the NFL. Herbert is a little bigger. One, I don't think the gap is that big. Trevor is about 6'6" and only weighs about 20 pounds less than Herbert. And two, I think Trevor Lawrence's decision-making, his football IQ, his leadership, and his poise all make him the better overall prospect than Justin Herbert. For me, there was a little bit of erratic play when it comes to Justin Herbert. It was a little bit of reckless sometimes. That needs to be cleaned up a little bit. There was a lot of interceptions that I felt like he could have avoided, even though he didn't really throw that many interceptions. There was a lot of times where you see him throwing across his body, throwing these, 50-50 balls into traffic like that. Now, I do like that he's taking risks, though. I do like that. I would hope that Trevor does the same, but I think Trevor isn't going to make the decision to throw cross body off platform as much. He might be more of a throw it away kind of guy, play it safe, much like Aaron Rodgers is. So that's why I would take Trevor. I think Justin Herbert still has a lot more to go. Now we'll see. I could be wrong. Trevor could come into the pros and be very average to below average, but I feel like me and you could both agree on that's very unlikely. He is,
it's
like
very
you said,
unlikely.
Incredible.
There's another highly touted quarterback in this draft, though, that I think is going to come in and possibly be pretty below average because I've been watching a lot of film on him, but we'll get to that, I think, later.
Who do you think that is?
Justin Fields. I'm out on Justin Fields.
Justin Fields. Okay. All right. Why is that?
I've been watching film on him. I'm out on him. I'm done.
What do you see? What are you seeing?
This is what I'm seeing. When he drops back, he looks one person the whole time, looks nowhere else. For 2 years, he's done that. Luckily, at Ohio State, he just has all the best athletes around him compared to other people in the Big Ten. But when he's played good defenses, like actually good defenses, it's failed miserably. I wouldn't say Clemson's defense last year was that good because they couldn't get a pass rush on him. And when you can't get a pass rush and Justin Fields has 6 seconds to throw the football, I'm kind of exaggerating. He didn't have really 6 seconds, but he had all the time in the world. Your number one option is going to come wide open. There was multiple times not in the national championship game, but in that game versus Clemson where I saw wide open reads that he just absolutely just missed completely because it wasn't his first look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say that's the big knock on him is that he doesn't go through his progressions well. And
that comes with the fact that from what I've seen from the film, I don't think he can read a defense.
Mm-hmm.
But because of his athletic ability, it makes up for it. But in the NFL, that's going to really hurt him. And at this point, he slid down my top 5 quarterbacks significantly. And last year, at this point, I was very high on Justin Fields for the next draft. But now it's just like, where's he ranked now? Like, honestly, Mac Jones, the more film I watch on Mac Jones, Mac Jones is starting to climb my draft board and almost past Justin Fields.
Really?
Yeah, I have Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones kind of all at a very similar level. But the only reason Trey and Justin are at that level is because their athletic ability compared to Mac. Because I think Mac does what Mac did this year at Alabama, they would do things in motion. He already knew where the ball was going to go at the snap because he read the defense that quickly based on the motion.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying you like Mac Jones's ability to read a defense as opposed to Justin Fields. But now, how do you evaluate a guy like Mac Jones who had, like you said, the argument with Justin Fields, all the talent in the world around him? I mean, probably even more than that. You had a Heisman Trophy winner at wide receiver and then a really good running back in Najee Harris and a great defense with a great coach at Alabama. How do you evaluate a guy like Mac Jones?
That's also the question. See, you got to take that into account too, because when you look at Justin's weapons versus the weapons Mac had, you're like, well, 2 years ago at Alabama had potentially 4 first-round wide receivers and Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, and who am I missing? Henry Ruggs. There was 4 first-round wide receivers there 2 years ago. This year you had 2. And then John Mechie, who will probably be a first-round wide receiver when he decides to come out because he's just that good. Mm-hmm. And then Najee Harris at running back. another first round running back. Like there's too much first round talent around him for me to be like, oh, he's definitely like a top quarterback in this draft. But then again, you're just like, but he does everything so well and he does it so efficiently. It's hard for me to judge it. I haven't watched enough film on him to really give you a full explanation. But the more I watch on him, the more I like him even more. And he was in my top 5 to begin with. So
yeah, we'll certainly see. The draft is really an interesting time. Personally, if you're asking me, between Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, one of them is going to fall to 15. I think it's going to be Mac Jones going to the Patriots at 15th overall, in my opinion. Justin Fields, I was really out on him after that Northwestern game. It was just obvious that he couldn't come through when they needed him the most, and he really got carried by Trey Sermon, rushing for over 330 yards that day. I mean, that was unbelievable. So, but back to the NFL. Also, news from last Friday: J.J. Watt has been released by the Houston Texans. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year is on the market. I talked about this on my last episode as well. I really dug into the Texans for being an extremely dysfunctional organization, but I didn't get into any of potential landing spots for them. Just off the top of my head, I thought Steelers, just to team up with his brothers in Pittsburgh, but they're almost $30 million over the cap. I don't think that they're in a winning situation at all in Pittsburgh. I don't think that's a winning situation anymore. That J.J. Watt really, he wants to win. He wants to be on a winner. I don't think that's Pittsburgh. So then I thought about maybe the Titans, because like you said earlier, they need a pass rush. And then the Bills as well. They're somebody that could benefit from pass rush as well. But then there was news coming from Mary Kay Cabot that J.J. Watt is apparently seriously considering signing with the Cleveland Browns. I think it's a great fit, a really great fit. What do you think about J.J. Watt's fit in Cleveland, and where do you think he's going to end up ultimately?
I think there's 2 options for him, really. Because I'm looking at, right now on my phone, I'm looking at the numbers for cap space. And he's going to demand, I think, $8 million a year is I think what he's going to be looking for. And I think he's going to look to maybe sign, kind of like Ndamukong Suh. Ndamukong Suh only does 1-year deals. I don't think JJ is going to sign somewhere for 2 or 3 years. I think it's going to be a 1-year deal, $8 million. And there's only a couple options that are winners that I think he can do that for. And the Browns are one of those options, honestly. And they would be a good fit. I think JJ is going to have to come in somewhere, though, and realize that he can't play on every snap anymore. Not that he's not that talented, but he needs to be brought in like a nickel situation where it's definitely going to be a pass, because he is so dominant when it comes to rushing the passer that I think if he played 30, 35 snaps a game where he's just rushing the passer, his uptick in like production would go up, his value would go up, and like he would just be so dominant. And then you put him across from Myles Garrett or line him up in the middle where he can get a one-on-one matchup with a center or a guard, he would just kill. I think the Browns are a great fit. I also think the Dolphins would be a good fit as well. They have the cap space. They're a young team. They have the potential to go win some games and possibly, depending upon, the quarterback play from Tua next year, because I think Tua is their guy, because I've been watching film on Tua too. I got takes on him, but I think Tua is their guy moving forward. So I think the Dolphins have a lot of potential, but the Browns have already showed that they can do it. They can win games. So I think it's going to be between one of those two teams. I look at the cap numbers right here, right now. The 49ers could be an option. The Buccaneers, which would make a lot of sense if he goes to Tampa Bay. They clearly prove that they can go win one when they needed it. And JJ's never appeared in a conference championship game, let alone a Super Bowl. JJ wants to get a ring. I think Cleveland, Miami, and Tampa would be his best options to do that.
So Cleveland, Miami, and Tampa.
In no particular order, but if you had to put it in an order, just for his chances to get a ring, I would say Tampa, Cleveland, Miami.
Okay. Yeah, I can agree with Tampa. I get the Tampa idea. The problem is they already just have such a great defense, and they're going to spend
Yeah.
so much money trying to bring back Chris Godwin, Levante David.
I think they can pass on Chris Godwin.
Really?
I think they bring back AB on another 1-year deal. Scotty Miller's there. Mike Evans is already there. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, they could afford to lose Godwin. I think they can't afford to lose Fournette. Fournette's a big part of that team. We'll see what they have to do though. But
I think they can't. I like Ronald Jones better than I like Fournette.
really,
Yeah.
I personally believe that Fournette is more of a every down back. I think he's an underrated pass catcher. I know he had some drops in the, I believe, the NFC Championship game, but I think he's an underrated pass catcher. I think he's really good running in between the tackles, and I think he could do goal line, third down, pass catching, whatever you want him to do. Ronald Jones, same thing, but when you have that 1-2 punch, Ronald Jones obviously I believe is a little bit faster than Leonard Fournette, but when you have that 1-2 punch, you could be looking at competing with the Cleveland Browns as having the best backfield in the NFL, in my opinion.
I think the most intriguing offseason to watch will definitely be Tampa Bay's and what they're going to do, because there's so many veteran guys that are like going to be up to sign somewhere else that want to go win a ring. Like, I think you're going to see guys flock there and just take veteran minimum deals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think for sure, I think Leonard Fournette won't be in Tampa Bay next year, because I think they're going to sign Adrian Peterson.
Really?
I think Adrian Peterson will play the role of the goal line back for them. And I think that Ronald Jones will increase his number of carries, because when his carry numbers were high, he was playing very well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would benefit them the best. And I think it's going to be intriguing to watch what they do, for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. Tampa obviously is a good place for J.J. Watt. It's a good place for anyone to go. If you want to win, go play with Tom Brady. That's really how the NFL seems to be going for the past 21 seasons. So Tampa's a good one. Dolphins are a good one. That's a team that I didn't really think about, mainly because I'm thinking about them with Deshaun Watson a lot, but we'll get into that later. But I personally, and this is me just trying to keep unbiased, I know big Cleveland guy, but I really think that the best fit for J.J. Watt is to be in Cleveland. Think about it. You've got a good coach, you got a reliable offense, and they have the cap space, like you mentioned, to be able to sign him. And the Browns are close to being able to make a Super Bowl run. And here's some interesting stats. I have some stats here. J.J. Watt was the most double-teamed edge rusher last season. Myles Garrett was the third most double-teamed edge rusher last season. Then you look at their win rate percentage. J.J. Watt was still 8th in win rate percentage, and Myles Garrett was 3rd in win rate percentage. Despite them being the most double-teamed edge rushers in the league, that duo would be lethal, right? That would be lethal. Because you can't double team both of them at the same time when they're both on the field. And like you said, you bring JJ Watt in, you kind of reserve him for just passing situations only. And you have him on one side, Myles Garrett on the other side, and say, good luck, whoever's dropping back, because you are about to get mauled, right? Because both of those guys are extremely good, two of the best at rushing the passer in the NFL. And that's going to open up opportunities for both of them, because they're not going to be double covered as much. You know what I mean? So if JJ Watt signs with the Browns, I think that immediately would make them the best pass rush in the league. So now before we wrap this all up here, I want to get into Deshaun Watson really quick. We really have to. He's the big talk. We talked about this
talk about him.
What was that?
I said it's so tough not to talk about him.
Exactly, right? He's just an elephant in the room at every sports talk show around town. So we talked about this on your show a long time ago, back when the Deshaun Watson trade rumors were just getting started, and we both said Miami. And they certainly seem to still be in it as Deshaun Watson was hanging out with Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle who plays for the Miami Dolphins in Miami, but now he's a former teammate of Deshaun Watson's back in college at Clemson. I don't know if that's a big deal or not. I have heard rumors that I read an article from the Miami Herald the other day, inside the closed doors in the Miami Dolphins organization, they are really considering the possibility of trading for Deshaun Watson. I think they absolutely should. I think Deshaun Watson, outside of Patrick Mahomes, if I'm picking a quarterback that I want to build around for the next 10 years, I'm picking Deshaun Watson. Obviously, last season, throwing for over 4,800 yards, over 30 touchdowns, 70% completion percentage, barely any interceptions. What do you think? You think the Dolphins should still be looking at this, or do you want Tua?
I want Tua.
Really?
You have to give up too much to get Deshaun. I thought this over so much, and the picks that you'd have to give up to get Deshaun, that offense needs some help. They have no weapons. Their best running back is Myles Gaskin, undrafted. I think he's undrafted. He might be like a day 3 running back. Myles Gaskin, good running back, not a solid running back. Their best wide receiver is Devontae Parker, and outside of him, it's undrafted wide receiver Preston Williams. They have no receivers. Devontae Parker is not a true number 1 in this league. With the picks they have right now, they could get Devontae Smith at 3, or they could take the tackle from Oregon at 3 and give Tua some help on the offensive line, or give him a wide receiver. I think they could take a running back in the first round. How many picks do they have in the first? 2 or 3?
2.
You know? 2. Okay, so they could literally pick a tackle or a great wide receiver with the first pick, or they could take a wide receiver at the second pick. Like, they have a lot of options.
Mm-hmm.
And I think giving up on Tua this early would be a mistake, personally.
Yeah.
But if you get Deshaun Watson, though, you instantly become a Super Bowl contender. But if you just give Tua 1 more year to figure, like, let's see, there is a chance, because I like the building behind a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract. Like, I think it works best for a team because you can really assemble a squad of guys in there. Like, they have cap room to bring in a free agent or 2 and still draft a couple talented players. I mean, imagine if they sign Kenny Golladay and then draft Devontae Smith. I mean, that offense would be deadly.
It would be.
I think that would help, because I'm going to be honest, the guys that Tua was throwing to this year really couldn't get open because they're just not that solid of wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I think giving up on Tua right now would be a mistake, because I think Tua still has the upside to be one of the best quarterbacks from his draft class.
Yeah, I can understand that. Personally, like I said, I think if Deshaun Watson wants to be a Miami Dolphin, I feel like you have to make him a Miami Dolphin. If you give up 2 first-round picks and Tua, I mean, that's fine. You have to make Deshaun Watson a Dolphin if he wants to be a Dolphin. And also, looking at the other competitors in this trade potential scenario, the Jets. If the Jets get Deshaun Watson and you're the Miami Dolphins, whether or not you think Tua is going to be good or not, do you want to play Josh Allen twice a year and Deshaun Watson twice a year? Because that's not good. And I think looking at Tua, there's still a lot of question marks with him. I don't think that he's very aggressive in pushing the ball down the field. I think he has a little bit of he doesn't have moxie like a bunch of other quarterbacks do. He doesn't play with this kind of, swagger that other quarterbacks do that I wish he would. He's not very aggressive, not very confident throwing the ball, it seems like sometimes. Deshaun Watson is. And I know you're going to say, yeah, but they have no weapons. They don't have time to get open. They don't have that good of an offensive line there.
If Deshaun was there, they would.
Exactly. They would have time to get open. Why? Because Deshaun Watson is infinitely more mobile and better at buying time than Tua is in that pocket. Tua is not the most mobile of quarterbacks. I know he ran for, he was pretty good at running against the Cardinals, but I mean, that was, it was one game. He's not really the scrambler type of quarterback. Deshaun Watson is a guy that can buy you time in the pocket, evade, work the pocket, and buy time for receivers to get open downfield. And you have Devontae Parker, who, yeah, maybe he's not a true number one in the league. He can get open. Any receiver can get open if they have enough time in the NFL. Any NFL wide receiver has time to get open. They're going to get open. And then you have Jakeem Grant, who's a speed guy. Preston Williams has capability of running routes and getting open. We saw that in his rookie year before he tore his ACL. Last year, he was a little bit of a underachiever, underperformer, very disappointing. And then you also have a great safety valve in Mike Gesicki, who I think is actually a really good tight end. So personally, I think the Dolphins absolutely should go try and trade for Deshaun Watson, mainly because you don't want him on the Jets. And if he's on your team, you're instantly competing with Kansas City and all the other great AFC teams to make it out of the AFC. But, it's more than just Miami and the Jets now. We've heard that the Broncos might potentially be involved. They might want to give up Drew Lock. We've heard rumors about that. But the big rumor is that the Carolina Panthers are willing to break the bank in order to trade for Deshaun Watson. Apparently, they are willing to offer 2 first-round picks, Teddy Bridgewater, and Christian McCaffrey. That is an unbelievable amount. Probably would be the most lopsided trade in the history of the NFL. But we don't know what's true. It is lying season in the NFL. That's all this is. It's a whole bunch of smoke and mirrors sometimes. But if it is true, wow. But where do you see Deshaun Watson landing if it's not Miami?
I think there's no truth behind the Carolina rumors. I think Matt Rule wants to build around Christian McCaffrey. I have no reason to really fully believe that, other than when Matt Rule was hired, he said, we're going to build this offense behind my running back, which is Christian McCaffrey. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he's changed that, because Matt Rule, he's a pretty open guy. And I don't think Matt Rule believes that team would be very good if Christian McCaffrey went elsewhere. Mm-hmm. I think Denver would be an intriguing option because they have weapons. I don't think Denver is going to have Drew Lock be their quarterback next year, but I don't think Deshaun Watson will end up in Denver. I think Denver will have a new quarterback, though. Not sure who it's going to be. It could be Marcus Mariota. Could be Mitch. They could draft the guy. I think they're going to move up and draft the guy. I think the most intriguing fit for Deshaun Watson, and I don't hear people talk about it at all, is the Washington football team. Why are we not saying Deshaun goes there? Because that team, they gave Tampa Bay, a run for their money in the playoffs a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of. Through like 3 quarters, they was like, okay, Washington is hanging around. And if they actually got a true quarterback, like an actual legit quarterback, they would be very good, because their best quarterback last year, Alex Smith, let's be honest, he was just average.
Yeah.
Taylor Heineke, who they just signed, he was a guy that last year in the fall was taking college courses because he wasn't in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So I think if you get a guy, I don't know what they'd have to give up to get Deshaun Watson, but I think Washington should do everything in their power to make Deshaun Watson a player for the football team.
Wow. Yeah, that would be actually an unbelievable fit. You got a great head coach in Ron Rivera, great defense. You got Antonio Gibson running the ball, Terry McLaurin, who's a really good wide receiver. You would have a really good team if you added Deshaun Watson to that Washington football team. They'd probably be the best one in the division. Yeah, that would be an interesting. The only thing with them is, though, I don't think they have. What do they have to give up? They don't have that many draft picks. They don't have that many players that they could just give up. They don't have a lot of these teams, they have a young quarterback to give the Texans in exchange for Deshaun Watson, along with top 10 picks. The Washington football team, they don't really have that, mainly because they made the playoffs this year.
And that is the big problem. They have the cap, though, to do it. Mm-hmm. Based off the $180 million, $500,000 cap that's projected to be right now, they have about $38 million in cap. So they have the cap to do it. I don't know if they have the assets, but I think they should find a way, because they're for sure going to bring in a quarterback, because right now on their roster, I think they only have Taylor Heineke. And I like Heineke. He showed flashes of maybe a decent NFL quarterback in that playoff game, but he's not going to be a starter in this league. Mm-hmm. I think Deshaun Watson would be crazy fit there. I don't know how they're going to make it happen, but I think that they need to make that move happen for sure.
Yeah. I think whether or not Washington goes out and gets Deshaun Watson, they definitely should attempt to get a quarterback because, Alex Smith, I love him, but he's very subpar at this point in his career. He's not very mobile like he used to be. He's not the best throwing the football. He's not a top-notch guy anymore. And a team that needs a top-notch quarterback should be Washington, because if you add a really good quarterback to that team, they are really good roster.
Their window to win is right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that window is going to come close within 3 or 4 years because they're going to have to pay McLaurin. They're going to have to pay Chase Young. There's a couple other guys on that team that they're going to have to break the bank to keep. Their window to win is literally this year and next year. And that's like, there's a chance that after that, they might have to go into rebuilding if they pay all these guys. So their window to win is short, but if they can get Deshaun, it extends that window, I think.
Yeah, that would certainly be very interesting. That is something that a lot of people aren't talking about. But back to just the fit in Carolina, I'd like to say that I don't think that they should actually give up that much for Deshaun Watson. I think that would actually be too much to give up for Deshaun Watson. You should not give up Christian McCaffrey, Teddy Bridgewater, and 2 first-round picks. That is way too much to give up for one guy. Listen, the Panthers, I believe, are poised to be next in the NFC South.
Yep.
You look at Drew Brees probably going to retire. Now they might replace him with Jameis Winston. I think the Saints are still going to be a good team, but you're going to be a question mark at quarterback in New Orleans. Tom Brady, I know he just won a Super Bowl, but he's 43, right? Come on. Like, eventually Tom Brady in the next, 3 or 4 years is probably going to retire. Whether or not he's still good or when he retires or not is a different discussion. But then you're looking at the Falcons, who are blowing it up right now. We don't even know if Matt Ryan's going to be the quarterback next year. Then you have the Panthers. You have DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, very good young players on defense. They spent all of their draft picks on defense last year. If you add Deshaun Watson to that, but you just give up Teddy Bridgewater and 2 first-rounders, maybe you'll be great. You will probably be up next in that division. But if you just keep it the same, I still feel as if Teddy Bridgewater is good enough to lead you guys to a division title. What do you think about that?
I don't. As long as Brady's in that division, Teddy Bridgewater will never be enough. Mm-hmm. I don't think Carolina should give up everything they got to get Deshaun, though. Because their window to possibly do something, I feel like, is 1 or 2 years away. And if they gave up, because as long as Brady's there, let's be honest, it's the Bucs division to lose, especially with Breeze retiring. We don't know what the Saints are going to be. We know what the Falcons are going to be. The Panthers' window is, I think, in 1 to 2 years because they already paid McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. There's a couple guys on that defense that are very young. I think next year that could be their year. But, I think they should trade up to get a guy. Maybe this year, possibly next year. But I don't think they should give up on Teddy immediately. I think they should ride it with him for right now. But it's intriguing when you think about the NFC South because it's like, okay, let's be honest. That's the Bucs division to lose. And it doesn't feel like they're going to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
So why would Carolina give up everything just to be second in the division and play in a wild card game?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree with that. That's definitely too much. So you're going with Deshaun Watson to who?
Washington football team.
All right. Washington football team acquiring Deshaun Watson. That's Jared's final bold take of the day. That's going to be it for today.
Bold.
Yeah, major bold. Major bold today, Jared.
The whole episode.
Thank you for coming on once again. And everyone, please make sure to follow Jared on social media. I'll post a link to his YouTube and social media in the description down below. Thank you again, Jared, for coming on and for all of your hot takes. And for everyone watching, please make sure to stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you.